There are nights that split your life in two, nights that feel like nothing happened on the outside, but everything changed on the inside. Not because the world rearranged itself, but because you stopped agreeing with the version of reality you no longer wanted to live in. Tonight can be one of those nights. This can be the moment you step out of the loop you've been stuck in, not through force, but through resonance. A quiet decision, a shift in frequency, a conscious choice to no longer rehearse the past. You've been taught that change is linear, that it takes years, effort, and proof. But reality doesn't work the way you were told. Reality is not fixed. It's fluid, dynamic, shaped by your state of consciousness in every moment. And the most powerful shifts often happen not during effort, but during surrender. And there's no better time to surrender your old timeline than before sleep. Because in the moments before sleep, the doors to your subconscious open. Your brain drops into slower wave states. Resistance softens. You're no longer filtering experience through logic or conditioning. In that liminal space between waking and dreaming, you have access to a deeper kind of influence, a kind of rewiring, a moment where what you accept begins to harden into form. And if you understand how to use that window, you don't just fall asleep, you shift timelines. But first, let's lay the foundation. Let's talk about the mechanics of how timelines actually shift. Because this isn't about fantasy, it's about quantum alignment. Right now, there are infinite versions of you. Infinite lives, infinite outcomes. Each one exists as a parallel reality. These are not possibilities waiting for you in the future. They already exist in the field. The version of you who healed, the version who followed their purpose, the version who never settled, the version who is living in complete abundance, creativity, peace, and love. You don't move toward these realities in time. You tune into them in frequency. Every thought, every emotion, every belief you hold, these are the levers that shift your vibration, and that vibration determines which version of reality you are selecting in each moment. Most people live on autopilot, replaying old emotions, recycling beliefs they never chose, reacting from patterns that belong to someone else. And so they keep selecting the same timeline over and over, wondering why nothing changes. But once you become conscious of the fact that your reality is being selected, not forced upon you, everything begins to open. Because here's the truth, you're not stuck. You're just habitually aligned with a version of reality that feels familiar. Familiar doesn't mean true. Familiar doesn't mean permanent. Familiar just means practiced. And what you've practiced, you can unpractice. That's what makes tonight so powerful. Because tonight is not just a pause between days, it's a threshold, a window of access. When your conscious attention drifts and your subconscious mind becomes dominant, you are entering the control room of your reality. The place where identity lives. The place where belief takes root. The place from which all timelines are navigated. So if you fall asleep rehearsing what's missing, you reinforce the version of reality where it continues to be missing. If you fall asleep replaying old conversations, you cement the identity that was wounded by them. If you fall asleep worrying about what hasn't happened yet, you enter the next day from the frequency of lack. But if you fall asleep as the version of you who has already shifted, you begin anchoring that identity. You begin impressing that vibration. You begin stepping into the next version of your life without needing the external world to validate it first. This is not theory. This is how quantum identity works. Your state becomes your selection, and nothing shifts your state more deeply and permanently than what you feel in the moments before sleep. That's why we're not just going to explain this tonight. We're going to give you a challenge at the end of this video, a simple test that will prove this works. You'll be invited to do something that's worked for thousands of others, something subtle but powerful. A method that goes all the way back to one of the most respected spiritual teachers of manifestation. Someone we'll tell you about later. A man who taught countless students how to use the subconscious mind to radically change their lives through a single nightly practice. But before we give you that challenge, you need to understand what's truly possible. Because most people settle for gradual progress. They wait for conditions to change. They tell themselves it's not realistic to expect a breakthrough from just one night. But that belief is the block. It's the very thing keeping them inside a timeline that doesn't reflect their power. The shift doesn't require time. It requires agreement. The version of you who lives in alignment, they already exist. The only thing separating you from them is your continued participation in the version of you who doesn't. That participation looks like doubt, like inertia, like passive acceptance, like going to sleep each night with a mind full of the same stories that kept you small the day before. Tonight can be different. Not because you force it, but because you finally allow it. If you were to close your eyes tonight and begin feeling what it's like to already be who you've been trying to become, your energy would shift, your body would shift, your perception would shift, and that shift would begin attracting people, ideas, decisions, and insights from a completely different timeline. The outer world might not change overnight, but you would, and the outer world always catches up to your inner coherence. This is why the night matters. This is why the last thing you feel before you fall asleep matters, because it shapes the filter through which you see tomorrow. It molds the story your subconscious accepts as real. It guides the actions you unconsciously take or avoid when you wake up. You do not need to know every step of your future. You only need to know the version of you who's already living it. And that version of you? They're waiting, not far ahead, but right here, ready to be selected. So as we move into the next part of this video, you'll learn the exact process for aligning with that version, how to feel them, how to think from them, how to begin living in the new timeline tonight. Now that you understand why the moments before sleep are the most powerful window for shifting realities, here's the part that makes it real. What you must actually do before you drift into sleep. It's simple, but it will challenge every part of you that wants to wait for evidence before committing to a new reality. You must become the version of you who has already shifted. Not in theory, not in hope, in presence. You don't shift by wanting, you don't shift by wishing, you shift by being. And the moment your identity changes, reality begins to rearrange around it. This is the one thing you must do before sleep. Not because the act itself is magical, but because the state it creates sends a new signal to the quantum field. That state is called coherence. It's when your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are finally in agreement. It's when you're no longer imagining something while simultaneously doubting it. It's when the story in your mind matches the feeling in your body and both are aligned with the timeline you desire. So how do you enter that state? Start by asking yourself a question. Not what do I want to manifest, but who do I want to wake up as? Don't answer with a list of things. Answer with a state of being. You want to wake up calm, focused, abundant, confident, free. That's the version of you that already lives in the reality you want. That's the self you're choosing to step into. And your only job before sleep is to feel what they feel. Close your eyes and begin visualizing, not from the outside, but from the inside. Don't see yourself as if you're watching a movie. See yourself through your own eyes. Walk through the version of your life where the problem has already been solved. The breakthrough already happened. The shift is complete. Feel your body in that space. Hear how you speak. Notice how you make decisions. Not the perfect fantasy life, the resonant one. The one that actually feels like you, evolved, you unhindered, you aligned. This isn't about faking it. It's about rehearsing the frequency of a new normal. The subconscious doesn't respond to words. It responds to repetition and emotion. That's why just saying affirmations isn't enough. The energy you feel while you're saying them is what imprints. So before you sleep, your job is not to affirm, it's to embody. Let that version of you take over. Let them breathe through you. Let their calm become your baseline. Let their clarity become your default. Let the version of you who already has what you want lead the final few minutes of your waking state. And if your mind wants to argue, let it, but don't follow it. This isn't the time to fix what went wrong today. This isn't the time to mentally rehearse your worries. This is the time to select a new signal and let it settle into your subconscious without resistance. Your subconscious is listening. Every time you do this, you are impressing a new blueprint onto the field. You are saying, "This is who I am now." And if you do it consistently, If you go to sleep more committed to your future than your past, that new self will start to organize your waking life. You'll begin to notice shifts, subtle ones at first, a new idea, a change in energy, a sense of peace where there used to be tension. Then a conversation opens a door, a decision feels easier. A version of you that used to be buried under hesitation begins to rise up effortlessly. This is how reality bends. You don't chase it, you match it. So tonight, don't fall asleep with yesterday in your mind. Fall asleep with tomorrow already in your bones. This isn't just a sleep hack. This is quantum reselection, and the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. The more evidence you collect, the more stable your shift becomes. You'll start to feel it, the thinning of the veil between who you were and who you truly are. You'll wake up different, not because the world changed, but because you did. This is the one thing you must do before sleep. Choose who you are becoming, and feel it as if it's already done. The morning always tells the truth. It reveals which version of you made the decisions the night before. It reflects which reality you rehearsed as you drifted into sleep. It shows you through your energy, your attitude, your first choices, whether you shifted or stayed the same. This is why what you do before sleep matters so much. It creates momentum. Not through force, but through frequency. And when you truly allow yourself to fall asleep aligned with your chosen reality, the next morning becomes your first opportunity to stabilize the shift. You've heard the phrase, win the morning, win the day. But there's a deeper truth. The morning reflects what you committed to in the night. And if you committed, truly committed, to becoming the version of you who lives in your desired timeline, then the morning is no longer just routine. It's initiation, it's confirmation. But here's what most people do. They have a beautiful visualization before sleep. They feel inspired, aligned, peaceful. But then they wake up and immediately check their phone, absorb the same fear-based narratives, or slip back into the thoughts, habits, and identity of the old version of themselves. And without realizing it, they reject the shift they made. Because a shift isn't just a moment, it's a decision you hold. You can't just visit the new timeline once and expect your entire life to change. You have to return to it, reinforce it, stabilize it by becoming someone who thinks from it, not about it. So when you wake up tomorrow, ask yourself, what version of me opened their eyes today? Did I rise as the one who decided to shift, or did I rise as the one still negotiating with the old story? This is how the new reality becomes real, by letting your actions match the energy you chose the night before. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to pretend. But you do have to hold the frequency long enough to let it repattern your nervous system. You do this by making small, subtle choices as if the shift already happened. You walk a little differently. You speak a little more clearly. You notice what triggers you, and you pause instead of reacting. You stay conscious. You don't need to rush. You just need to remember. Thousands of people have applied these concepts and changed their lives, and you can become one of them starting from tonight. But if you still don't believe it, then I will let you prove yourself with the technique that I will show you now. Neville Goddard, one of the most influential spiritual teachers of the 20th century, spent decades teaching how the subconscious mind creates reality, and how the final moments before sleep are the most powerful time to imprint the identity of your chosen self. He called it impressing the subconscious. And the key, according to Neville, wasn't just visualizing a scene, it was feeling the wish fulfilled. Living the experience internally until it became more real than what your senses were showing you. He didn't just teach this, he challenged people to test it. One of his most famous experiments was called the ladder technique. He told his students to spend several nights imagining themselves climbing a ladder, feeling the texture, the pressure in their hands, the steps beneath their feet. And then he told them to write down on paper, "I will not climb a ladder." He told them to place that note where they'd see it during the day, to look at it and repeat it. But each night, they were to continue imagining the act of climbing a ladder. What happened? They climbed ladders. Often in ways they didn't expect, sometimes by accident, sometimes through dreams, sometimes at work or in moments that felt totally unplanned. But they climbed. Because the subconscious mind responds not to logic, but to dominant feeling, to repetition, to the imagery and emotion we feed it in the space before sleep. So here's your challenge. Tonight, choose a symbolic act that represents your shift. It doesn't need to be a ladder, though you're welcome to try Neville's original version. It could be something small but specific, shaking someone's hand, walking across a stage, receiving a gift, laughing at a joke. Now impress that scene on your subconscious. Feel it in your body, feel it in your breath. Rehearse it tonight before you sleep and commit to doing it for 3 nights. But here's the key. During the day, you don't chase it. You don't obsess over it. You live your life while knowing the imprint has been made. You carry a quiet certainty that reality is already adjusting. This is your test. Will you climb the ladder? So let this be the night. Let this be your experiment. And when it happens, when the evidence shows up in a way that surprises even you, come back and tell your story. Share it in the comments. Speak it into the world. Let this space become your confirmation. Because the shift is real, and this is how you live it.